This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. We have a new Elite Series champ, and I think if you ask Brendan Polinick, he wouldn't be surprised. I don't think I'm saying his name 100% correctly. Koya Fujita. Like I said, I've talked about this guy since before the year started. I believe that if you go back into the BTL archives, there may be a show where I said he is going to revolutionize finesse fishing on the Elite Series within 3 years. And that was before he'd made a single cast this year. And then he came out, like I said, with the wacky rigged crab. That was bold. He did the fuzzy dice. That was unique. He did the 3-pound test at Oneida. That's an interesting strategy. And now he dominates on, and he would have won by more too. He dominates on Lake Champlain, which is very interesting because Lake Champlain is an area lake, a spot lake with boulders where people say how hard it is to go to Lake Champlain, once known as the 6th or 7th Great Lake. I think, our guest today would know how many Great Lakes there are. We got Polish Pete Trevor Lowe from Omnia Fishing. They're up in Minnesota. 6 or 7 Great Lakes. We'll just bring him in and ask. What's up, guys? Are there 6 or 7 Great Lakes, Pete?
5 Great Lakes. Champlain
5?
Considered the 6th. Yeah.
Dang it. I was so close. I was so close to having it right. What's up, Trevor? How are you?
What's going on, man? I'm good. Good.
Thanks for jumping on. So anyway, they go up to what once was considered the 6th Great Lake. A guy who doesn't speak any English and hasn't been here very long. And he beats all these guys who have been there over and over again. He had a 4-day total weight of 86.12. And he's got an outside chance now of making interesting in the Angler of the Year standings. I was pulling that up. He is in 8th place in the Angler of the Year standings, but he's 50-some points back. Did you guys watch this Derby?
I watched it intensely. Yes, I did.
There's something different about Champlain to me because I feel like a 4.5. I guess you could say that on all fisheries, but it's just on Champlain. It just every time they hook up with one of those 4 to 5 pounders, it seems incredibly important that fish gets in the boat.
Oh, big time, big time.
More so than like St. Lawrence River, where you're like, oh, I'm on a school of them.
For sure, and you could hear that from a lot of the guys that were, that missed that 10 cut or were just outside of the cut line about how many missed opportunities there were at this one, where you can shake that off someplace like the St. Lawrence and, your average fish is just so big, where there's a lot of those 3+ pounders in Champlain, but there's not the numbers of those 4 pounders and 5 pounders that there are at other smallmouth fisheries they go to. So your landing percentage has got to be real high at a place like Champlain. So those, like to your point, those 4.5 to 5 pounders were key fish.
Now we've got an Angler of the Year race at the top, which actually matured quite nicely. There were multiple opportunities for either Cobb or Welcher to just mail it in, and then it's a kind of a 1-horse race. But those two, I mean, are finishing within 5 spots of each other, it seems, every tournament. And we go into it's Christmas time next week for every fan of professional bass fishing, because we go into the final Elite Series event of the year with a 6-point lead for Kyle Welcher over Brandon Cobb. And then Drew Cook is in the mix. So you got 3 guys who are self-admittably not smallmouth guys at all in any way, shape, or form. And then you got Shakur at Lurkin, who the last time we were there had 100 pounds. So this week, the Elite Series on the St. Lawrence River, on Lake Ontario, Thousand Islands. Hank always calls it the Seaway. the St. Lawrence Seaway, which I guess is why there's all those ships there. It's shaping up to be one of the most memorable St. Lawrence River tournaments since 2013.
Yeah, I think the biggest factor in this one is if you've listened to any of the guys in their socials already and paid any attention to the weather, it looks like this one could be real bumpy. So the lake might not be where all the top 10
they're going.
I agree 100%. But
didn't you try to go last time, Trevor?
Oh yeah, I mean, I ran out to the lake, and I mean, as soon as you, I forget what that spot's called.
Cape Vincent.
Cape Vincent, yeah. As soon as you hit the mouth of the lake, it's just like 6, 7, 8 footers, and so it ggets pretty squirrely out there. You got to be careful. You got to know what you're doing and just drive slow for sure.
There's some big factors in this though, because of the fact that they are predicting there might be a blow day if they cancel a day. And their practice, if you only got 2 days of practice, since they lost a day of practice because of extending the Champlain tournament, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of the guys locked down in the river instead of risking it out on the lake.
Yeah, but then there's also guys, so here's the difference. They're taking out of Clayton this year.
Yep.
So the lake is like right there. So it's like that kid with the don't touch the cookies. Like they're going. I mean, there's guys, if you got guys that are doing it in the opens, you better believe when you've got livelihoods and angler of the years and incentives, there's a whole bunch of incentives at the end of the year for like highest finishing guys for different brands and stuff. So there's thousands of dollars there. Plus then you go around down to the classic cut around that 40 mark. And this is shocking to me, but you have Clark Wendlandt, Iaconelli, and Corey Johnson in 37, 38, and 39. And then we all know what happened to Braden Lester there last time. He's in 41st. Yep. Huff is in 42nd. Fighter's in 44th. And Porosnik's in 45th. Like, if you were to tell me, hey, these guys are battling for something going into the last one, I'd be like, oh, yeah, it's like the top 6 in the Angler of the Year, and they're going up north where they always catch them. But this is to make the classic. They're going to the freaking lake.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even if there's 8, 9 footers, they're going out there. Wendlandt, have you seen the video that circulated last month? Wendlandt was stuffing 6 footers in like a 1989 18-foot 150.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who plays it safe and who goes and risks it. So I don't know. We'll have to see what this weather does.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we're going to get into that today. Omnia, cutting edge when it comes to online tackle purchasing, but also possibly some things out there that, like, should those anglers want to see exactly what that wind is doing, if they want to go to like the hardest part on Lake Ontario, Omnia might be able to help them out with that. So we'll get into that. Also, a little bit of a show and tell. We're going to talk about some of the baits that have gotten the job done on the northern swing. Now, has anything like really sexy jumped off the page this year between the BPT up on the Bay and the past Elite Series and the Opens, or are we just seeing a shift in productive baits? I feel like a couple new baits have maybe entered the playing field.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much, at least what they're sharing with us, so much the baits. It's that category of baits is starting to shine, and guys are getting better and more efficient at fishing it. We're certainly not breaking any news here that forward-facing sonar is dominating these tournaments. It's all everybody's talking about. So that hanging a bait, Demiki rig, moping, however you want to call it, is becoming the most dominant tactic in the on the pro circuits. But I think what you're going to see now is people refining the baits that are currently out there. Do you want me to jump into some of that right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I guess probably the hottest thing I think is going to happen, because timing was perfect on this, is you're going to see some of the traditional hanging style baits get downsized a little bit. And probably the most popular soft bait for the past 2 years for hanging a bait has been the scented jerk shads from Z-Man. Literally yesterday, the 3.5 inch version landed with us. It's been a 4 inch. It's been what Gussie's won his tournaments on. It's the most natural looking bait, when you're hanging it. It's the easiest to fish, in my opinion, if you're new to this, because of the buoyancy of the plastic. It makes it sit horizontally. So even if you're not directly over the bait, if you're pitching out to them now, which you're seeing a lot of people do, it makes it a lot easier to present the bait in a more natural fashion because it's buoyant. And now they've got a smaller size in that, which had been dominated by this one right here, the Baby Z2 from Strike King, which is a 3.5 version. It's also a Laztec, but now you've got a scented version from Z-Man as well, and the scented jerk shad. So these two would be like your low-hanging fruit. I think you've seen probably the most money in that technique get won off these two baits right here. And we've got both of those right now. But it was funny, to your point, but Trevor messaged me on my way in this morning and said, we want to talk about some of the baits that have been playing in these last two tournaments. And I said, great, you know, we're in a good position with all that. And I showed up to work and I looked, and you see how much over this week of the Elite Series event, how much of this stuff is just sold like crazy. Like our Smeltinator stock went from excessively deep to like, bam, we're out of a whole bunch of colors and stuff. So you're gonna have to sign up for your notifications on that. But the Smeltinator jig is obviously Gussie super popularized this thing. We saw a lot of anglers, even at Champlain, using this as the jig of choice for hanging a bait on your forward-facing sonar. But there's
what makes that so good? Is it just because it was the first to the party, or one of the first to the party, or is there anything that's, because I mean it's a easy to, I mean, I would say duplicate, but that thing continues to stand the test of time amongst the top level anglers. You always hear that Smeltinator jig.
And I think it's because the hooks hasn't been easy to get for a lot of other jig manufacturers.
Okay.
The most popular size, I think it's a 604 Gami. It's like a 1/0. You know, they buy up as much of it as they possibly can, and it's used in a couple other jigs for different styles of jigs. So it's been hard for other manufacturers to kind of get their hands on that hook, and obviously the anglers have a ton of confidence in that. But to your point, there are some other brands out there like Matt Steffen's Guppy Head.
Yep.
You've got the Greenfish came out with this one, and I did see some anglers play with this one.
Oh, that looks good.
This is the Bad Little Shad. Yeah. Brian News Bad Little Shad.
Okay.
We've got a bunch of these. There's a lot of cool minnow colors in these, but very similar bait, very easy to keep horizontal.
That's the whole key with this, right? Is the horizontal. If you hold up that Smeltinator too, it's a 90, let me make sure I get this right, 90-degree line tie on.
Exactly. And you're seeing that, making that presentation of that bait being horizontal in the water column is why the Elastec plastics have been so popular. But we've seen some anglers making adjustments to this. That's the funnest part about this to me. As much as we're all complaining about staring at guys' backs for days on end, forward-facing sonar fishing, it's you kind of touched on it this morning. We were chatting before we went on here. Is we don't even know exactly what everybody's did on Champlain, because guys are holding it tight because they're going to the St. Lawrence. We're going to see the same tactics get played. What adjustments are being made now that all these anglers, even the Southern anglers that weren't hanging baits like Gussie was his whole life, or the Japanese anglers that have been doing it, what adjustments are they making in their presentations? And we've seen stuff like Matt Steffen come out with that hover rig.
Hold that up a little bit more. So when Matt was in studio, he actually gave me some of those, a pile of them, and I have not unlocked the magic of it, but I've put it on a bunch of different stuff. Like he flips with it, he strolls with it, he casts to fish with it, he fishes brush with it. Him and Johnny Schultz designed that for core tackle. But there's something with that action. I caught some actually around bridge pilings at Wheeler, which will tell you just how dialed in that I was fishing bridge pilings at Wheeler. But I was actually very impressed with that jig head.
Yeah, it's just a sign that you see that people are adjusting, and it made me, you know, when Trevor told me you wanted to kind of chat some of this stuff, some sleeper stuff I don't think a lot of people have caught on to yet, but I don't know. This is just my observation. I guess I'm calling it out what I saw. I don't have any details on it because I have not got a chance to speak to Koyo Fujita about his win, and I don't know if I will get a chance to speak to him about it. But just my observations from watching him, it seemed to me, and I think if you look back at some of the footage, a lot of anglers would agree with me, that he was not fishing a bait hanging directly in front of the boat as much as a lot of guys were, that his bait was out in front of him quite a ways. And man, when he set the hook, and we're all making the assumption that Koyo's fishing much lighter line than everybody else, much more finesse than everybody else, but somehow this kid was wrenching on them, and they seemed to just be on the surface within 2 cranks of the handle. And to me, I'm watching this the whole time going, oh, he's might not be fishing as deep. Now I could be wrong, but it just my plain observations. I think you're starting to see people fish out away from the boat for these fish that are suspended down there in deeper water, these pelagic roaming fish, trying to get them to come up to the baits. And there's some different jig heads and different style hooks, like this little gem right here, which I just started fishing with.
What is that?
Kid. So this is an outbarb jig head from Ichikawa Fishing. Ichikawa makes some of my favorite hooks out there. But this is a jig head with an outbarb barb on the hook. Shank.
Like the mega bass hooks.
Like you got it. The mega bass hook, which are a love-hate relationship with a lot of anglers I get, because you damage them so easy. But when do you damage them? You damage them trying to take them out of the fish.
Hey, do you know anybody who's ever gotten one of those buried in them?
Yes.
How do you get the outbarbs out? Because you can't line trick it, can you?
No, I've seen someone do it aggressively enough to get it out,
and it rips.
It rips.
So
it's a pushback through kind of deal, or visit your local urgent care.
I've always wondered that, because it's always cold and you're always fumbling with it at the side of the boat. And I'm always like, I wonder what would happen if one of these suckers goes like through the glove and into you. And now I know. Anyway, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to sidebar you with that. I just have always wondered that.
Nope. That's honestly, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's what I was going to say is, but when you look at a jig head like this, it's got a little bit longer shank on it. And I'm trying to get it up to the screen here for everybody to see.
That looks great.
A little bit longer shank on it, but it's going to help you with that horizontal presentation with a traditional salted soft plastic that's not as buoyant, right? But also what aids you in that is if you're fishing something with a flatter belly on it. I'm trying to think of something I got here with a flatter belly on it, like maybe this Great Lakes Finesse Flat Cat. You can pull it kind of forward towards yourself, keep it up higher in the water column. But with that outbarb, if the fish comes up and strikes it from the side or gets a light bite, and you saw a lot of anglers at Champlain lose a lot of fish on their jig heads.
Yeah.
This will aid you in landing those fish. If you're fishing the bait not straight up and down, you're fishing it out away from yourself with lighter line and a spinning rod, and you don't get a hard hook set into them. If you just pull into them and load them up a little bit, or they grab it and run off with it, you're going to get a better hooks. You're going to landing percentage will go up with this hook. But to Banger's point there, be careful, because landing a smallmouth is scary enough. But if you're going to grab at this thing with your hand, if you get this jig hook in your hand, you're going to have problems.
There it is right there.
But it just goes to show you that there's some different ways to fish this stuff. I also believe that this style jig head's getting fished a lot more too. And I think you're going to see this play at the St. Lawrence. And that's a mix between your spy baiting technique and fishing an Okashira screw head like this, where you can actually cast this thing out to some fish on your forward-facing sonar and roll it over the top of their heads and get them to come up and grab at it with that added attraction of the little blade on it. But you can fish the little baby Z2s or the Great Lakes Finesse plastics that are getting so popular with all the anglers. And you can fish it in different levels of the water column on your forward-facing sonar.
That's kind of the secret thing, is that little Great Lakes Finesse drop minnow, the neutrally buoyant drop minnow on that screw head or a tiny underspin.
You got it. The little underspins are playing like crazy. And I think that's not just because of the added attraction of the blade. I think that extra weight on that little finesse presentation helps you keep it in whatever column of the water body you're trying to fish. If you're staring at those fish that are cruising 8 feet off the bottom, it's not super easy with a 16th ounce jig head to just sit there and keep that bait in front of that fish's face, especially in 2.5 footers and the bow's coming up and down in the boat and everything. If you've got something like a little underspin that's got some added weight to it with that blade spinning underneath it, it's easier to keep it in front of that fish's face or right above his head.
I know that Ishikawa screw lock, that jig head, the first time it really came to my attention would have been the Elite Series that Carl Jacobson won on 10 killer Chris Aldane. It was a real tough bite. No one really was able to figure out the shallow smallmouth, and he was putting a little Hasdong shad on the back of that thing and just slow rolling it across the pea gravel up there. And it was a mix between a spy bait and a swim bait and a Demiki rig all in one. And he caught some really nice ones.
Yeah, he did. And I think, especially with the limited practice these guys have, you're still going to see a little bit of that moving bait stuff play at least day one in the tournament. Now, if you're a guy like Corey Johnson and Chris Johnson and you're dotted up, you know where you're going, you know where you're going to hit, you know, you're going to see Corey and Chris's a little CJ Smashers play there. That's a neutrally buoyant little Ned style bait.
Mm-hmm.
They've got location stuff where they can drop on those fish. They can locate those schools. But I do think you're going to see people moving around a lot with some sort of screw head, underspins, spy baits like that to locate those schools of fish because they do have a pretty limited practice.
You pointed that out in the beginning of the show, is that the Elites, because there was a day canceled at Champlain, they now have 2 full days of practice instead of 3 with the lake in play. And I didn't see what it was going to be in practice here. Let me see what
practice is supposed to be pretty.
They'll be able to move around.
Yeah.
Yep. Today, 4 mile an hour wind, 78 for the high. They call that Chamber of Commerce weather. And then Wednesday, 7 miles an hour. Oh no, 5 miles an hour. Yeah. So they'll be able to move around. Oh, they've kind of dropped down. Yeah. Saturday's going to be interesting. Saturday and Sunday, 9-10 mile an hour winds. But that's a big place to figure out in 2 days. But I think you are going to see, you know, I ran through this one time before. There's like 11 baits that have played on the St. Lawrence, which is shocking when you think about it. But there are really some cool stuff that has played in the past. I mean, we're introduced to the hair jig, the spy bait, big spinner baits, chatter baits, jigs, drop shots, Ned rigs, Demiki. The only thing I've never seen on the St. Lawrence is a crankbait play, which I don't think it.
Yeah, now that you say that, I can't think of any time a crankbait's played in
like ever, like not even out on the lake.
Which is kind of weird, actually.
Yeah. And we've seen a little bit of topwater, but not historically. But I think that the Demiki is going to be the deal this time around. I
do too, just because, you know, we're learning that hunting with Panoptics and any forward-facing sonar units is dominating right now. And if you're not doing it, you're losing. So I think you're right. I think you're going to see a lot of baits hanging. And I do think
you call it hanging?
Yeah, hanging a bait or moping or Demiki rigging. Yeah, we called it moping up here because of Gussie for years. He was winning a lot of tournaments up on Rainy Lake up here on the Canadian border with Minnesota. And that the Linders kind of coined that moping. And we called it moping forever. But obviously, from the Elite Series perspective, it was called Demiki rigging for a long time. But I don't know. I've heard hanging a bait quite a bit now. So,
what do you call it, Trevor?
Yeah, I think hanging a bait is probably us northern Minnesota guys. That's the term that we hear the most, the term that we use the most. But I mean, Demiki, I can't remember exactly how Demiki became the term.
Because it was the actual Demiki
rig. Yeah.
It's a Cinco. It's just like Cinco.
Yeah.
That was that tournament. I think Wheeler won on like Tennessee River or something like that.
100%
back in the day. So
does that play on Mille Lacs?
It has more now that the boulders are so beat up. You can't just drop a drop shot or a Ned rig on every boulder now and pick off the dumb one that lives there. Now that you're getting off the breaks and stuff, that it is playing a little bit now.
Is this the first technique that you can remember that is? I mean, this technique was around. It was done before forward-facing sonar. It was done with 2D over productive areas. But I feel like this entire category has been spawned because of the forward facing sonar. 100%. Like, I mean, this whole industry of the jig heads and the baits and all the whole style is forward facing sonar.
Yep. 1000%. And that's why I think it's going to be those minute little details of things like an out barb, things like different buoyancy levels of plastics and things like that. You're going to have a whole arsenal of stuff to adjust to the attitude of the fish that you're watching them react to on forward facing sonar. Like, do I have to keep the baits above their heads? Do I have to run it past them really fast with a heavy bait? There's all sorts of different ways. I think we're going to adjust our tackle to it.
And I got the Omnia site pulled up there that just kind of shows all the different. Have you messed with that Queen Tackle live scope tungsten jig head yet? That's supposed to be like, I've got it pulled up right now. That's supposed to show up more like on your scope.
I haven't personally, but I was invited recently when I was out in Michigan there to go down to some deep lakes down in the middle of the country there and do that this winter. So that'll be my first foray into fishing deeper than, I would say, 25 foot in my life with a Demiki rig or any sort of dropping with sonar. So
we did it on Table Rock like 4 years ago. It was the first time I was introduced to it on deep timber.
Yeah.
In late November. And it was shocking, A, how deep those fish get, and B, how aggressive they are in cold water deep. Like, you think I would talk and you watch it like you're right above them and you're sitting there and you're shaking it and you're like, okay, I'm gonna do a twitch where the one tail goes like this and that, then I'm gonna dart it up and like I was pitching this thing out to a treetop and you're watching them come up, follow it down, swim all around it. Like they're convinced that thing's real.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they haven't. It's probably one of the few places they haven't seen a lot of baits is when they're down that deep.
They have now because everyone does it on on Table Rock. If you want to get some of your own forward facing sonar, I got to do this. I made a banner, and we still have a code. Did I do that right? So if you haven't ordered from Omnia before, there's a slight incentive. 15% off your first purchase at omniafishing.com. And then at checkout, just use code capital BTL23. There you go.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Any other? Let's run through the rest of the baits, and then we'll take a break and come back, and then we'll get into the innovative stuff. Not that this stuff isn't innovative, but Trevor's been sitting there just like, okay, another bait. He's been waiting for his time for his baby.
I'm always down to just hear tackle conversations.
All right. Anything else that we need to have on our radar, Pete?
Yeah, I think the hand pour guys are going to get into this game, and I think that's going to play the life.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
This is just personal for me. Like, I just have to throw it. I have quite honestly one of the worst Ned rig fishermen in the history of mankind. And I have had most of my success in the last few weeks fishing this little thing. This is that little Missile Baits Robo Worm collaboration hand pour, the small one. The Strike King's got the filler worm. I think you're going to see a lot of people cutting down the 6-inch type hand pours and stuff. Just playing with them in the tank here and looking at it. The lifelike, stuff you get out of the hand pour worms is going to be huge. So I think if you're trying this technique out, I don't think you should turn your back on some of the West Coast stuff, all those hand pour worms, cutting those down and trying different techniques with that. And I think you've seen Schmitty just smash everybody on those hand poured style, whether it's on a Nico rig or a Ned head. Our most popular Ned head here has been Josh Douglas's perfect Ned head.
Yep.
The sides are curved, so it stands the bait up a little easier, but even for hanging a bait, the shanks are long enough on it that I think it works really well for that technique as well. And one other one I think gets slept on quite a bit here is this little thing here, especially in those Great Lakes fisheries or any of the small fisheries, is this is a bait
the heck is that?
Yeah, it's a bait by Nishini here. it's like a willow cat. They got them in just green pumpkin and black, but they're heavily salted and almost looks like chum in the water when they hit the water. A lot of flakes kind of flutter off this thing as you shake it around down there. But I would encourage people to just get creative. If they can find baits that are a little flatter on the bottom with a wider head to hook into, they can get a lot more action. It's easier to keep them horizontal and a little different than just the Elastec baits.
What is that again?
This is
hold the whole package up.
Yep, this is a Nishini Lure Works.
Okay. Is this like a thing that everyone knows about and I'm the only one who's never heard of this? So
no, this is a little juicy one. I thought I'd just share.
I mean, could you not do like a micro Nico rig on that too?
You absolutely could, yeah, without a doubt. I think
hold the bait up again, because it looks like it's got elements of a Ned rig, it's got elements of a Demiki rig, and then they were like, let's kind of make it look like a catfish.
It looks like a little willow cat, which is a bait fish.
What's a willow cat?
It's a popular bait fish in the walleye tournament world. They actually,
I've never even heard of that.
Bait shops, people will buy them and fish them. So it's a really, really, really cool bait that, trust me, I just pissed 2 people off big time sharing this, but I've kept it quiet for a couple of years.
That's what we do at BTL.
Yeah.
We piss people off.
Yeah, we piss people off, but this thing's been really, really, really effective for those great. It looks huge on the camera here, but it's a pretty good bite-sized bait if you're looking for that bigger bite, hanging a bait, or fishing. Like you said, you can fish it on a little Nico rig. There's different ways to fish this bait. You got to get creative now, I think, with the forward-facing sonar. So,
is that a willow cat?
That is a little willow cat. It looks like.
Okay.
Can you blow the picture up a little bit?
Possibly here. Let me. Yeah, you guys don't even see my attempt to do that. There's a willow cat. That's what we're talking about.
Yep.
Hold on a second. Oh, you are about to love this picture.
Oh yeah.
That's a willow cat, and then
a willow cat,
and then hold the bait up again.
Yep.
Are you really going to get in trouble? Am I just really hammering the point home here?
I didn't think we could kind of brush by it and say, "Here's a bait to try." But yeah, this is a cool little bait.
And where are these? These are like strictly a northern deal.
Yeah, they're residents in a lot of the rivers that are all Great Lakes tributaries, the Mississippi River, all that stuff. It's a pretty cool way. See, there we go. I already got one person pissed off. It's just a good bait fish imitator that not a lot of people key in on this bait fish, this presentation. But I think obviously this thing can mimic a goby. We see all the crawfish style baits that don't even look like a crayfish still get bit and all that stuff. So just a good natural forage mimicker that I don't see a lot of people mimicking. I see them mimicking shad, bluegill, gobies, crayfish. Yeah. Nobody's mimicking little bullheads and catfish.
And what's the name of that again? I'm going to type it in real quick.
This is the Nishini Namazu.
Nishin.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, I think I found it.
Yeah. Take it easy. Let me get some before you go.
Is that it?
That's
it. Is that the 5 or the 4-inch?
This is the 4-inch right here.
Oh, that's reasonable too. It's like $3 less than a pack of flatworms.
Yeah.
And you can drop shot it. You can Ned rig it. You can
put it on a football head. Kind of ruins the whiskers, but
that finesse, like Travis Manson's little Beast Coast football head. You can put that on the back of it.
Think of the hover rig. Think of a lot of different ways that thing can play.
Oh yeah, you could fish it, and it comes in a 5 and a 4-inch.
Mm-hmm. It's a big bite getter, so maybe end of the day kind of thing if you're swinging with the forward facing sonar.
So I feel like the last time I got this much hate mail, I talked about the I could just from this, like, come on, dude, like, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I did a deal with Gerald Swindle when he was throwing the old Zoom Ed Chambers baits, and he had like a little mutt.
Yeah,
and,
the whack one or whatever.
Yeah, and I kind of got cued in on that, and I had a buddy who does like one of the wood bait who does one of the wood bait forums, and he's like, I don't know what you did, but you just pissed off a bunch of people on the forum. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you apparently talked about this. And he's like, anybody who's selling them loves you. Anybody who's trying to buy one hates you right now.
Yeah.
It took like a month to cool off.
I just saw my phone light up about 4 times, so I don't even want to look what the text says. So,
all right. What else you got there?
That's really kind of about it for as far as just baits that I think, pointing out just the different style jig heads that I think you should be trying. We do a ton of GoldenEye stuff.
Wait, what is that?
That's the Josh Douglas's GoldenEye.
Oh, okay.
It's another version of kind of that Smeltinator family, that kind of deal where you could hang it with a bait with it, or you can swim it. That's about it I got for that category, I guess, of forward-facing sonar stuff.
All right. Any other baits that you guys pulled before we take a break and then come back and talk about the Premium Pro?
That's about it I got for baits that I pulled to show. Other than, obviously, as you guys know, the Great Lakes Finesse stuff.
Is that hard? That's A, hard to get, B, impossible to keep in stock, and C, the smallmouth bait of 2023.
I was gonna brag when I was on my way in here when Trevor said that, because we got a boatload of it last week, I believe, and I got here this morning to pull it, and like all the drop minnows were gone. All that. Luckily, though, if you click the notify me next to them, I did get informed after I blew a gasket when I saw they were already all gone, that we have a whole bunch more on the way. So sign up for those notifications. We'll email you as soon as they get scanned in, probably later this week or next week.
Yeah, super easy. So I will point out on those, and I think you'll agree with me on this, smaller than anticipated when you actually get them in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Like that flat cat thing, it's
tiny.
Legit looks like a crappie jig.
Yeah.
But those guys know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah, no, it's no joke. It's definitely a bite getter. It's a limit getter kind of bait for sure. Here, for example, is this is a 2-aught hook and a net head. And here's the bait. I'll hold it up to
you can't even really fit. It is
like if I had it threaded up on the deal there,
it'd be too big.
It would almost come out at the tail. So just goes to show you, this thing's pretty small, but these things are catching them like crazy.
And the same with the 2.75 drop minnow. You don't even want to know what I'm going to do to crappie starting in October and November with this thing right here. Like you don't even want to know.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a trend you're starting to see in the smallmouth world, though, is that downsizing, because, back in the day, I feel like that 4.3 Kitech was the size, and then it went down to a 3.8 on a 3/8 ounce head, and then now you've got guys going to the 3.3 and all the way to the 2.8, and you're starting to see that play on the Great Lakes quite a bit. These guys they're getting smaller and smaller with their baits, and then to the whole Great Lakes Finesse point, you've got their little craw, which is like a 2.5 or something like that. It's a tiny little deal, but it catches them for sure.
It's like the size of a quarter, that craw.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's you would never think like something like that would play or even get seen in the water, but I mean, that thing just flat out catches them for sure.
Oh, you have them in stock in the smoke clear purple flake.
Yeah,
2.1 inches.
That one will get me in more trouble than the little willow cat imitator. That one's been catching them for quite a while, way before Great Lakes Finesse blew up.
Yeah, and they're putting it on a ball head jig and dragging it like a net, but just dragging it. That was part of was it the 30? How much did it weigh?
30 something pound bag out of St. Lawrence.
31, 32 or something.
2-pound bag out of the St. Lawrence. I said I met the Great Lakes Finesse guys. We're gonna be doing some stuff with them on day 4 on BTL with Pradco taking over Great Lakes Finesse this past year. But I got to meet them at ICAST, and they know their stuff and passionate about it too. Kind of like Simonton. Remember when we had talked about Michael Simonton? Cool story. I went and fished with my dad on Erie with Michael Simonton, and when we dropped drop the boat off. He let me keep my boat at his house. He's like, hey dude, you want to see the shop and all that? And I was like, absolutely. So got to see where he pours it all, where he makes everything, where it all comes out. And it's like a 15 by 10 outbuilding that he has decked out with all sorts of air vents. Because the first time I was there, he just moved into the house and he was doing it in like a dimly lit basement. Like it looked like there might be someone chained up in the corner. And now he's got it out there with all the air vents and stuff, and he's got it all packaged. And he's like, this is, earmarked for Omnia, and this is going to a little tackle store. And it's super cool to see.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his for sure.
All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we're going to get into the ways to find where to throw the baits we just talked about. I guess is the best way to do that transition, because
that's a good transition. Yeah,
there's some apps out there, and then Omnia is jumping into the game with their Premium Pro and a lot of different options to help cut down the time it takes. And you can also use this stuff to keep you safe, to figure out where you do want to go, where you don't want to go. But we'll let Trevor dive into that. It is BTL. What's today? Tuesday?
Today's Tuesday. All day long.
Tuesday, 8/22, August 22nd. Guys from Omnia, we'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronics setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
Welcome back, BTL. Talking with Polish Pete and Trevor Lowe from Omnia. And I do like to remind everyone that there's only one man on this 3-person panel who has fished the Bassmaster Classic, and it's not me or you, Pete.
Oh. There you go. There you go.
I'm looking for the guy.
I did want to point out also when it comes to small baits, you could do that. You saw the X Zone ad there. I had a chance to. I did a giveaway where I actually mailed them out within a month after people won them, which I was very proud of. But the new Stealth Invader, like a little upside down boot tail on it. Polinick's been using it, and then that's a really underrated. You just think drop shot, but that's an underrated ball head bait too that you can use for that same technique.
Oh yeah, especially for hovering baits over fish's head, moving them.
That thing is perfect. Really cool little bait there that I think Polinick will be in the mix, and I think that bait right there might become a little bit more difficult to get after next week, depending on who does what. Well, because you've got some X Zone guys, Carl and Brandon, who I both expect to do well.
Yeah, they're fishing well too. That thing will do really well. Another bait though that it'll surprise you how small it is definitely in a finesse category of like a little boot tail for sure.
Nick, and this is it for these guys wanting to get into the finesse. I want to get into the Great Lakes finesse stuff. Anyone have any tips on fishing baits that small, rigging options, depths? As a rule of thumb, I don't think you want to go above. So the whole key to this is finding a jig head that has the weight but a small enough shank, right? Like you want to stick around with like jig heads that are specifically designed for this technique and not just go get a random jig head, because it's all about the action of these baits. Am I wrong on that?
No, not at all. And they make it easy. They do have their own jig head that we carry that kind of help you out, just to know like, hey, this will work with a lot of the baits. It's a shorter shank, smaller little finesse jig head. But I think a lot of the baits are kind of easiest right off the bat to just kind of get used to the actions and see how they perform on a drop shot, just nose hooking them. Even the little, believe it or not, that little craw on a drop shot, especially during the spawn, just throw that out there, is a pretty killer little bait. But they're pretty simple to rig with just nose hooking them at first, kind of seeing how it size hooks you want in them. And then Great Lakes Finesse does have jig options for you to make it easy.
Yeah, I think one thing I'll add to that is I'm going to piss off a lot of people by saying this, but
Pete's already.
Stop throwing it on a bait caster. Throw it on a spinning rod, please. I know the BFS craze and 6 pound test and everything like that, but you lose that nice smooth drag if you go with a bait caster. So if you're going to be throwing light line, you're going to be throwing those light wire hooks and those tiny little 1/0 hooks. Definitely keep it on a spinning rod.
You did piss a lot of people off with that statement, bud.
Yep.
It's amazing to me how they find it, how those fish can find such a small bait. But I think we're learning, especially with forward-facing sonar, that we're not using them, and they're not using them as search baits. They're using them as feeding baits. Mm-hmm. They're not reaction baits. These are baits that the fish are feeding, and this is matching the size and shape. I mean, sometimes they eat the giant rusty crawfish like that one, like they do on St. Clair and stuff. But as a whole, I mean, it's much safer, much easier to eat those little crawfish, and those you can catch 6-inch gobies, and you can catch them on that, but they like those little 2.5, 3-inch go. And when you can put that bait in front of them, your bite ratio and your hook to land ratio, as far as commitment for that fish, goes through the roof, is I think kind of what we're learning, especially with those minnow baits. Yeah. With a few exceptions, it's also interesting. A lot of those the same baits that I'll use the term that you're hanging or moping. I love using those new terms for me. Yeah. They're also threading them onto drop shot hooks, 1/0 and 2/0 drop shot, cover hooks. We saw that get really big a couple years ago on St. Clair when they're dealing with different bait fish. And I think you're going to continue to see those baits on drop shots threaded on for hookup ratio. Mm-hmm. All right, Trevor, let's talk Premium Pro here. 1 second. Let me give you, there you go. You got the big screen now. You sent me some stuff. I've been looking at it, and it amazes me how you can now have stuff that you're like, 3 years ago, you were like, man, it would be really nice if, and now it exists.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, a lot of people are familiar with our app. Well, first they're familiar with our platform, but some don't know that we have an app. But we've gone even further beyond that now, and we have this new app subscription called Premium Pro. People they know of our premium membership, which is $29 a year, free shipping on all your orders, 10% back on your purchases, everything like that. But now we've added a subscription model, which is called Premium Pro, and essentially what that gives you access to is everything that Premium has, plus all these brand new innovative map layers that get showcased on your phone for you. We've got, I sent you some screenshots. We got different map layers. We've got water temperature, which is derived through satellite data, satellite imaging. Then we've got water clarity, wind direction, wind speed. We can track storm cells, lightning strikes. We work with CMAP to get bottom hardness, as you can see there on various bodies of water. So you can see water contour layers as well. And you can pair that with your bottom hardness map layer to see if this particular turn or this particular point actually has hard bottom, or if it's not. And then on top of that, you got vegetation layers, so you can see where certain grass is growing in different parts of the lake. If the south end is going to have more vegetation than the other, but super awesome features that we have, and we're constantly improving on these every single day. If you want to pause there, go back one slide.
Right there?
Nope, go to
Right
the
there?
one with the river.
Right there?
Go
Right there?
one more to the right. That one right there.
Okay,
So,
I was wondering what the heck this one is, because this one
Okay.
makes no sense to me.
yep. So this is our water clarity map
Oh,
layer.
wow.
So this is pretty cool.
Yep.
This is taken directly from here in Minnesota. So that blue river that kind of goes north from Prescott north, that's the St. Croix River here, right on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And if you're from here, you know that water's pretty stained, but it's generally pretty clear. And then if you look to the left there, to the west, that's where the Mississippi comes in. And right at Prescott is where the Mississippi River hits the St. Croix River. And there is a very, very distinct mud line that you get right there. So it's pretty cool to see that, we've got those various layers that we can use to help you break down a body of water from home. You can see where certain mud lines are, certain different water clarities. That's the Arkansas River. I saw that firsthand when I was down there fishing the opens. And, that's, I can't remember what exactly that river is called, but that's basically, that river coming down from Fort Gibson hits the main
Canadian?
Arkansas River. Yep. And you just have a huge mud line there. And then if you go to the next slide, everybody's familiar with 10 killer, and you can see how clear 10 killer is. And that's completely highlighted in a different color gradient to show that, that water is much clearer than everything else around it. So
Yeah, there's the river. There's the river stuff down there.
Yep, exactly. So
And then there's
yeah, really cool stuff. Like I said, if you're fishing a body of water and you're trying to figure out where clear water is or where muddy water is, you can do that. And then here you've got contours paired with bottom hardness, so that you can see which various contour changes, points, humps, anything like that actually has hard bottom or not.
I don't know what lake this is. Is this a Popka?
No, that lake is that's
Meh.
Halstead's Bay, which is up here in Lake Minnetonka. So,
okay. So this is hard spot. So like right here where I'm circling.
Yep.
If I'm gonna, is there vegetation that's over that? Do you have a vegetation layer?
Yep, it's that green one. So you can see there's
Okay.
not a whole lot there.
Right. Okay. So right here, there's some vegetation. So I know there's some vegetation there, and then I can go back to here and say, hey, there's also a hard spot underneath that vegetation. So
Exactly.
now I know that I would venture to say that at some point Seth Feider has flipped up a fish off of this hard spot with vegetation, and
Sure.
and he probably had to spend a lot of time to find it out there.
Yeah,
Correct.
and that's the key, with any lake up here, that a lot of the Minnesotans know that as soon as the ice comes off, we're out there graphing because the grass hasn't grown in yet. Obviously rocks don't move, at least to my knowledge, they don't move. So you know, you can get out there early in the season and graph all the hard spots before the grass comes in. But now with these layers, you can take all this information, figure out where the hard spots are, and then just, you know, if you've got a huge bay full of vegetation, you can find the hard spots on that, eliminate water quickly, and just go fish those hard spots without having to graph them early in the season.
There's kind of like a gold rush on information right now, not fishing information on where to do or, you know, what to use, but just on this type of stuff. And it's really cool to see, because what it's doing, I think, is creating educated anglers.
Absolutely.
Who can then know why. Like I've always struggled with, like, if I'm catching them, how important is it to know why I'm catching them there? Like, is that important? So I've talked to some professional anglers. They're like, I really don't care why I'm catching them there. I just know that they're there. But then you talk to others, and I would say the vast majority of top end guys, they want to know why they're catching them there. So when something changes, they know where to go look to relocate those fish. If they don't know what they're on, then they don't know where their next logical stop is going to be. Yep. If they don't know that this is the bank that the wind is blowing on specifically, and it's only this, and then they come back and it's an east wind instead of a west wind, and all this does is give the angler more information and knowledge to make educated decisions.
Yeah, this is kind of connecting all the pieces to the puzzle. You know, when you can combine a bottom hardness layer with a contour layer, on top of that, you've got a wind direction and wind speed layer. You can see how maybe, you know, on a certain point in the lake, if you've got hard bottom mixed with vegetation and it's blowing from west to east, it's blown out of the west and it hits that point in a specific way, those bait fish get piled up there and the fish are there and they're chewing or something like that.
Yeah.
You can take that and you can replicate it all around the lake, especially, you know, you've got a lot of they call them like pattern lakes. Like you think of lakes in the Ozarks. If they're on pea gravel to, you know, chunk rock, and they're on that transition, you can go and replicate that all over the place if you're able to find that. And it's very similar here in Minnesota. You know, if you can figure out that they're on the edge of coontail in 15 foot of water, you can go and replicate that around the lake. Or if they're in milfoil, then you can go find that milfoil and that little bit shallower topped out stuff. But all of this is, to your point, pieces to the puzzle that help you become a better angler. And yeah, exactly like you said, you know, it's a complete disservice if you're just told where the fish are. Because yeah, you'll see, you know, guys that they might have a reputation for getting a lot of information, but as soon as they make it to, you know, a certain tournament trail or a certain level of competition where off limits and so on and so forth, you know, they're going to struggle. And that's, like I said, doing yourself a disservice because you're not understanding the why of fishing. All you know is how to catch them per se, or where to catch them.
I will say this. I was talking to a top 10 angler in the world a while ago, and you know, you guys are working on a lot of stuff. I also work with Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment, who's all about education, and you know, he's part of that core tackle deal. And there's certain elements of this that these guys have been doing on their own, which is incredibly hard leg work that gives them, I don't want to like straight give it away, but there's certain things on this feature that guys in the top 10 in the world have been doing to say, okay, I need to be in this part of the lake doing this. Yeah. And now it's 3 clicks and they're like, what the hell? Like, I hope this doesn't catch on, because this is one of my edges that puts me 2 days ahead of everyone else with practice, because I can look at this and 90% know that this is the area of the lake that I need to be in. And this is kind of where and how I need to be targeting them. And they're like, man, now it's just a matter of time. It's out there now. You just have to find it. And it was really interesting because it's stuff that you've always said, oh, it would be nice if this existed. And this guy like is on government satellite websites, downloading, printing, overlaying to get all this stuff in real time for top level tournaments
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, like that's the mentality. That next level mentality is I sat there and said, boy, it would be nice if this existed. He sat there and said, how can I actualize what I need? And then spent the hours and hours and hours to get what this stuff is.
Yeah. So funny you bring that up. There was recently a pro circuit event, Tackle Warehouse pro circuit event on La Crosse here.
Yep.
And I listened to two of the anglers, honestly had no idea what we were working on at the time, say, you know what would be killer is if we had contour maps with live wind direction on it, like windy, like the particles moving in the wind direction. So I could look and see all my spots as the river winds around what spots are getting the wind in the right direction for me and what's getting on it. And we have that now. And we have, I don't know how to politically put this, but in the coming days, if not weeks, the contour maps on all the lakes that we have on the app, which is practically every freshwater body in the U.S., will be the top tier maps you can purchase on a chip or anything like that. So imagine having your iPad in your boat or your phone even, and being able to say, all right, I'm catching them on windy points, but you can look way miles away from yourself and see the actual, wind speed and wind direction all over the entire lake and duplicate a pattern really fast. So it's cool to see, this is just the start for all the layers. There's a half dozen more layers already waiting to get approval and get worked into the system. So
it's the Premium Pro cake.
Yeah.
7-layer cake.
Yeah. This is going to be pretty cool stuff. It'll be, in my opinion, kind of like the best way to do a little homework before you get on the water, but it absolutely has features while you're on the water to make adjustments on the fly too. So
logistically, one of the advantages of having a show sponsored by Omni is you hooked me up with a code so I could see it. I have no idea, like, what are we talking about for a year if you want to get in on this hot Premium Pro action?
Yeah, Premium Pro. So a year subscription is $49.99. So that comes comes with your map layers, and it comes with the premium membership. For those that are already premium members, the additional $20 is all it is.
Yep. So you get your free shipping, no minimum. So if you're buying two bags of Great Lakes Finesse plastics, you get free shipping all the time. You're 10% back. Plus you have access to all the map layers and soon to be some of the really, really cool ones coming behind them too. So,
just what I need. Jamie Bruce to have more information.
Yeah.
not like info, but like pertinent, helping you catch fish, like abstract weather, lake info. He's smoking everyone. I expect to see him on the Elite Series next year. Heck, there's just going to be a whole division, a whole just like Northern Aluminum Boat division.
I might need to join that one. Geez.
It's
one quick thing to add on that is so right now we've got it released for iOS. Android is going to be coming within either today or tomorrow or something like that.
Okay.
It just needs to get approved in the Google Play Store or something like that. It should be
all
good
right.
to go.
So if you're on your phone and you don't have let's say you haven't done anything, you've heard us talk about Omni and everything. First thing you do, you just go download the Omni app.
Yep.
Then you make an account.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Totally free to make an account. You don't have to have anything. That way you can store everything on it. You get all the perks of that. Then once you make your account, you can upgrade to
Premium or Premium Pro.
Premium.
Yep. I would recommend Premium Pro.
And Premium Pro. And hold on. There's a reason I do a podcast and I'm not in math. You said it's what, $40 a year, 40 something.
$50 a year.
$49.99. Yep.
For Premium Pro, $30 for regular Premium.
Oh, that's $4 a month, folks.
Yeah. So I'll one up you here. We updated your landing page on our site, omniafishing.com/BTL. So if you go visit that link, we've got a Premium Pro button on there that'll take you straight to the Premium Pro landing
how about
page.
that? That just happened today.
Yep. So good to go. You can click there, and then it'll just automatically open up your App Store, your Google Play Store, and you're good to go.
There you go. Omnia, OMNIA fishing.com / Was it BTL or Bass Talk Live?
It's BTL. It'll redirect you to that.
Okay.
To that page. Yep.
Beautiful. And then you can do the Omnia. You could do the premium. It talks about the 15, the code BTL23 to get 15% off your first order. And then you get all the other benefits of it. So have you guys noticed? I mean, I don't want to try. I'm not trying to get into the business, but I am curious. You guys have made a huge concerted effort to get into this market space, the online tackle retailer, by doing a lot of unique, never before done things in this space. Have you noticed growth down in the South? Because I mean, obviously you go up north, and that's how I heard about it, fishing with Adam Bartuzek and the St. Jude and all that stuff. Oh, we order from Omnia and Hella Bass and all that. Mm-hmm. But then, you get down south, and as I got to know about it, people be like, well, what's Omnia? Have you seen a bunch of growth in the South as you've worked with Elite Series and as you've expanded lakes in the different regions? I mean, that's obviously got to be the ultimate goal. Yeah, for sure. 2 years. I mean, realistically, we've been in, mass retail, at least covering the country for about almost 3 years now, right? The first year of the company, 70% of our sales were in the Midwest. This year, it's on pace to be about 30% of our sales. So that's good, right? That's very good. It means we've spread out quite a bit around the country. We've done very well, surprisingly, on the West Coast. But the South is obviously where a lot of the bass fishing takes place. But we hope to even it out, honestly, as I think, I don't think it's any secret. We focused in on bass fishing initially because it is the largest consumer group. We had to prove out our operations, and we also wanted good information for our anglers that are shopping by lake to learn what's actually working and techniques and stuff. So we started with the hardcore anglers in the bass fishing world, but we'll be expanding into multiple species and all that stuff soon. So I hope to see the geography of it not be limited by species or any part of the country. I hope we're servicing everywhere soon. Anything else you guys want to get in before I leave you with a closing question? No, shoot. Who's going to win this week? I want both of your picks. AOY pick. Really, the AOY is going to come down to, it's going to be Welcher, Cobb, Cook. Let's just make things interesting. We'll do within 52 points of the lead, which is long shot. I mean, you got to really do some stuff with like voodoo dolls to jump from seventh up. Welcher, Cobb, Cook, Shakuret, Walters, Cifuentes, or Schmidt. That's who's got within 52 points. Welcher has a 6-point lead over Brandon Cobb, and then Drew Cook is right there, 30 points back, which is, 30 points in a 100-boat field is doable, but your destiny's out of your own hands. So we'll start with you, Trevor. Who you got? Man, I've been a fan of this guy for quite a while, and I'd love to see him hoist an AOY, and I'm gonna go with Brandon Cobb. Okay. I think no shots fired at Kyle Welcher. He's been killing it this entire year, but I think Brandon Cobb's gonna seal the deal. And in terms of who's gonna win this, let's get spicy. You want to go crazy? Let's get crazy. Yeah. Let's go with a back-to-back Kyoya Fujita. Double down on 2 trophies in 2 weeks. I like that. Mm-hmm. How do you say? You know how to say his name, because I say Koya. Well, you take Japanese, and you look at it. So you look at the word, like the name Tokyo, right? So the KYO is Kyo. Okay. So my guess is it's Kyoya. Kyoya. So, but I don't know. I could be saying it wrong. No, who knows? I'm Japanese, going with that. Pete, yours. Right. I'm going full on Homer picks here, boys. Okay, well, yep. AOY, hit me with your AOY pick. I think Cook's gonna blow everybody's mind and do some cool. Really? I think Cook's gonna pull it off. You think Drew Cook, is he gonna be looking at him, or is he gonna actually win Angler of the Year with a spinning rod deep? I think he'll mix of both. I think he's gonna do both. That would be something. Yeah, it would be. And then what gives you this gut feeling? I just, I look at the conditions. I think it's going to mess with a lot of people
what's going to happen to them with this short practice and then the blow days. It's going to get in people's heads. And if it gets mixed up, that if they do cancel a day or two, how this thing all works out. I think we need some fireworks, and I feel like they're coming.
Okay.
Something big happened there. And then I got to go full on homer pick. I haven't picked them all year, and so I'm blaming myself for the tough season so far, but Fighter's going to the Classic. He'll get in on points and because he won this one.
So he's going to get in on points and because he won this one, and there's a good chance and then someone else will get in.
Yep. He'll double qualify.
There's a lot of people that are probably not happy with Gussie. He's not holding up his end of the deal. He's down in 50th. He needs to double qualify to give. Well, I guess it's kind of the same thing because then he bumps someone else down there. But okay. Next question. Yeah, 100 pounds. We had Shakura hit 100 pounds last time. I'm going to say absolutely no way does it hit 100 pounds this time just because of the weather and a shorter practice period. Obviously in the 90s, but I think 100 pounds. I don't think people understand with running, with weather, with fish landing, just how hard it is to average 25 pounds a day of smallmouth out there.
Yeah, I have to
for 4 days.
I hope we see it. Don't get me wrong. I hope we see it, but my gut is you're right. I think it falls short of 100 pounds this time.
Yeah. Upper 90s probably. That's going to be my guess. 96 to 98 or something like that.
And final question, what bait is it one on? Because a lot of times it's not a mixed bag. You got a lot of guys who, I mean, you have to kind of, you've seen a little bit, but you kind of got to go full on, especially in late August. I think it'll be a 1 or 2 bait deal, but primarily when we're rolling out of this thing, are you going to be scrambling to get something none of us have ever heard of? Is it going to be a willow cat deal, Polish Pete?
I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be something pretty small. I would say that 3-inch scented jerk shad, a 3.5-inch might be a player. I can promise you this much. There's a lot of people fishing with that Great Lakes Finesse stuff at that place because they ordered it all from us. So I wouldn't be surprised if Great Lakes Finesse pulls out another victory. I'm going to go with that.
What percentage of the elite field do you think has some Great Lakes Finesse in their boat out of 103 guys? Just give me a ballpark number.
40%.
40%. So you think 60 or 40 guys, 40 out of the 100 have, and I don't think many of us had heard of that thing before this year even started. I'd heard about it a little because I'm buddies with Travis, but I didn't know if it was just another one of his conspiracy deals or what. It's a real deal.
I will tell you it's 40% right now after day 1 of practice. It might be 60%.
Wow.
Depends on how practice goes today.
Yeah. All right. I always enjoy it. Trevor, Pete, heck, I got to see Pete at ICAST. I got to see Pete at the media event. Your audio was fabulous for that show. I didn't realize we crushed. You were a little choppy on the signal. Did not realize that. That's on me. Yeah. But that was a good show there. So I've gotten to see a lot of Pete. Trevor, we still got to get on the water sometime.
Come on up.
I know you haven't fished much this year. You're saying.
I haven't. No, I've boat's been out of commission for a while, and I actually just got it back last week. So pretty.
You also have a kid now?
I do have a kid. She just turned 1. She's about 1.5 a month. So she takes up a lot of my time, but it's something I wouldn't trade for the world for sure.
1-year-old in a broken boat leads at a full-time job that's expanding.
Yeah.
That's the 3 strikes of random fishing trips.
That's 100% correct.
All right, guys. Like I said, always appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to you guys. Appreciate the support of BTL. It was like a 6-month process to get this thing done. And I wasn't exactly sure what I was getting into when I was working with Omnia. And they're like, well, can we come on and like talk about like some stuff that's going on? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe like once or twice a year. And then after we did it once, I was like, yeah, come on back every like month or two, because I think you add a lot to BTL, both knowledge, and I just like talking to you guys. So
we appreciate the support.
Yep.
All right.
Feelings
Appreciate
mutual.
it, guys. Pete, Trevor, have fun up there in Minnesota.
See you, everybody.
See you.
Adios.
Oh, there
Leaving
he is.
me up.
Yeah. There we go. I did that before. I was trying to do that, but all right. That was Omnia Fishing. Announcement on who we have as a guest. One of my favorite guys. When we come back, we'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, it is Tuesday, August 22nd. This is BTL. We'll be back after this.
Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Shoreline Boat and RV, dock rash, storm damage, collision repair, that deep scratch or gouge from trying to access that secret creek. Shoreline Boat and RV can get your prized possession back in mint condition and looking good on the water, fast. All repairs are done in-house, so they're able to get your boat or RV back to brand new, quickly. All Shoreline's work comes with a rock-solid warranty. Find out more at ShorelineBoatandRV.com, Kansas City, Austin, and Tulsa.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves the house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for everyday carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
All right, wrapping things up here on a Tuesday. Tomorrow's show, Gray Buck. BPT angler, one of the good guys on tour, longtime MLF, FLW, Invitational, Pro Circuit, Tour, whatever you want to call him. The guy can catch him, has been close before to making the BPT, but got the job done this year. So Gray Buck will be on. Also, absolutely catches him up north. So he'll have some insight for us on the St. Lawrence River and what's going on up north. I'll be interested to get his take on Damiki rigging, moping, hanging a jig, however you want to call it, because his strength is that smallmouth fishing. And like I said, that is a new thing, or a thing that has been kept quiet that's doing really good up there. I think he was one of the only guys that I've ever heard of. Speaking of the Great Lakes, 5 of them, which I learned. Thank you, Pete. I believe last year or the year before, Gray Buck caught a 4-pound smallmouth out of all 5 of the Great Lakes in the same summer, which is pretty freaking cool. So we'll talk to Gray. And then on Thursday, Frank Scalish, show with Frank will be back on. I think he's actually been out smallmouth fishing, so we'll talk to him about that. And then we'll have, the next time we're live, we'll have a Angler of the Year. We'll have the classic field almost set. There's still 3 more Bassmaster Opens: Watts Bar, Lake of the Ozarks, and Florida. Sean, I knew there were around 5 Great Lakes. I mean, you've got Huron, Superior, Erie, Michigan, and Ontario. That's the 5, yeah. And then the 6th one is Champlain. So, but that's all we got for today. Oh, I do want to mention before everyone goes, listen, if you want to hear more live stuff, 4 p.m. Central Time today, August 22nd, go watch the replay. If you're listening to this on iTunes or watching the replay, we are going live from Andrew Upshaw's YouTube channel, Andrew Upshaw Fishing. It's the Open Pros Pick'em. If you listen to what we do before every Elite Series tournament, Andrew's done a really good job of building up a listener base and some really cool stuff there with Ish Monroe, Todd Castledine, myself, and Andrew Upshaw. We have talked Andrew into going live at 4 p.m. for our final Open Pros Pick'em Fantasy. Now, here's the thing you guys don't realize. That show is not live. It is recorded. Out of the 8 that we've done this year, I think we've had to restart 3 of them. So all 40% of them. Because it goes off the rails so fast and we end up yelling at each other, or guys end up going down a path that shouldn't go live. Andrew is legit nervous about this because it's the last one of the year. Ish and I are grumpy because of our teams the last couple of weeks. We went from the penthouse to the outhouse. Todd's going to be cocky, and who knows what else is going to happen. But 4 p.m. Central Time, Open Pros Pick'em live on Andrew Upshaw's YouTube channel. Check it out. I'm excited for this one. And yeah, I do. That's a great point, Mark. He said, poor Matt's going to get roasted. I don't know how that became a thing, but I get absolutely obliterated on that show from Todd and from Ish, mainly Ish. Ish just likes to pour it on. And then Todd just sits there and eggs it on, but it is what it is. I enjoy doing that. I enjoy the feedback on that show. So that's all we got. Like I said, 4 p.m. today, Central Time, Andrew Upshaw's. Tomorrow, Gray Buck, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Head over to Omnia Fishing if you haven't. Support the companies that support BTL, allow you to do this. I had said something that said, man, everyone's got a subscription base. Yeah, there's a lot of time, energy, effort to go in that goes into all of this content, all of this material. Very thankful for the partnership with Omnia. Sign up for Premium and then Premium Pro. Orders before 1 p.m. ship the same day, and then you also get a bunch of different perks for being a Premium or a Premium Pro member. But that's all we got for BTL today on a Tuesday. I gotta go fix my lawnmower belt. That'll be a fun one. Should be a 5-minute job. Guaranteed it takes me over an hour. We'll see you tomorrow.